Hello friends. When we talk about compatibility between a Gemini man and an Aries woman, it feels almost like exploring the chemistry of fire meeting wind. There's something magnetic in how their personalities intertwine, full of sparks, unpredictability, and a sense of adventure that never really settles down. Yet beneath all that excitement lies a question: can this dynamic duo actually sustain a lasting, meaningful relationship, or are they destined to burn too brightly, too fast? Let's break it down step by step, from first sparks to lifelong commitment. Chemistry. Initial attraction. At first glance, the Gemini man is pure charm, the kind of man who walks into a room and immediately shifts the energy without even trying. His presence is not intimidating in the traditional sense. He isn't necessarily the loudest, the boldest, or the most extravagant, but there's something about his demeanor that demands attention. It's in the quickness of his eyes, the way he seems to absorb every detail around him, and the subtle half-smile that suggests he knows a joke no one else has heard yet. When he speaks, words flow easily, as though conversation were an art form he mastered in another lifetime. This effortless way of making people feel both entertained and understood is the very thing that draws an Aries woman to him like a moth to flame. She, on the other hand, is not the type to stand quietly in the shadows waiting to be noticed. The Aries woman radiates energy that feels like a rising sun, bold, unfiltered, and impossible to ignore. Her confidence is not a performance, it's innate, pulsing through every gesture, every laugh, every sharp turn of her head. She enters a room as though she belongs there, as though the space has been waiting for her to claim it. This aura of fiery boldness intrigues Gemini instantly. Where others may shy away from her intensity, Gemini is captivated. To him, she's not just another fascinating person in a sea of faces. She is a challenge, and nothing excites him more than someone who can keep him on his toes. For Aries, Gemini is unlike anyone she has met. She thrives on energy, directness, and passion, qualities that often leave her feeling too much for others. Yet here is someone who doesn't shrink from her intensity. Instead, he meets it with equal enthusiasm, though expressed differently. Where she is direct, he is clever. Where she charges forward, he dances sideways, turning every exchange into a verbal duel that thrills her. His humor, quick wit, and restless curiosity act like sparks thrown into the fire of her spirit, igniting something that feels both playful and dangerous. When she first meets him, she doesn't just see a man, she sees movement, possibility, a whirlwind of ideas and experiences that promises never to bore her. He, in turn, sees in her the embodiment of raw life force, a woman who doesn't apologize for her desires or her drive. Together, they create an atmosphere of instant attraction, like two elements colliding in nature, air rushing into fire, creating a blaze too bright to ignore. The chemistry between them is not subtle, it's electric. It feels like fireworks on a summer night, unexpected, colorful, explosive, and fleeting in its unpredictability. One moment, they're laughing uncontrollably at a joke no one else would understand, and the next, they're locked in a silent exchange of glances that speaks volumes about the unspoken tension simmering between them. Each interaction leaves them wanting more, unable to resist the pull of curiosity that keeps drawing them back. But beneath the initial intoxication, a question lingers. Gemini, by nature, seeks variety. His heart is restless, his mind forever scanning for new experiences, new people, new adventures. For him, the thrill of discovery is often stronger than the comfort of permanence. Aries, though adventurous, craves focus and decisive action. She wants to conquer, to achieve, to know exactly where she stands. In love, she is passionate and devoted, throwing herself in fully, but she expects her partner to match her intensity and stay the course. This is where the dynamic between them becomes both fascinating and precarious. Aries may interpret Gemini's shifting attention as inconsistency, while Gemini may feel suffocated by Aries' demand for unwavering presence. At first, these differences may add fuel to their chemistry, each pushing the other out of their comfort zone. Aries forces Gemini to ground himself in the present moment, while Gemini teaches Aries the beauty of spontaneity and the joy of not always knowing what comes next. Their attraction, then, is both a blessing and a test. It's the kind of connection that can launch them into unforgettable adventures, the kind that makes friends shake their heads in amazement at the obvious spark between them. But the lingering question remains: is this the beginning of a deep foundation, or simply a whirlwind romance destined to burn out as quickly as it began? The answer lies in whether they can learn to embrace not just the excitement of their differences, but the challenges as well. Because while chemistry may ignite the fire, it is understanding and balance that determine whether the flame continues to burn or fades into smoke. And now, a little side note. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a thanks button right under this video. Your support truly helps me keep creating. And of course, if you enjoy the content, please leave a like and subscribe so you won't miss what's coming next. Thank you so much for being here. Now, let's continue. Emotional dynamics. Emotionally, this pair is a storm waiting to happen, but not a destructive storm, more like the sudden summer thunder that clears the air and leaves behind a sharper, brighter sky. The Aries woman is refreshingly straightforward with her feelings. She doesn't sugarcoat, she doesn't hide, and she certainly doesn't play coy when it comes to what's in her heart. If she loves you, it will be loud, visible, undeniable. You will see it in her eyes, hear it in the urgency of her voice, and feel it in the way she throws herself into the relationship without hesitation. And if she's angry, well, there's no mystery there either. Her words become sharper, her movements quicker, her tone impossible to ignore. She is raw honesty wrapped in fire, and she doesn't apologize for it. The Gemini man, by contrast, approaches emotions like a puzzle. He feels them deeply, but he rarely allows himself to drown in them. Instead, he takes a step back, analyzes, intellectualizes, breaks things down into patterns and explanations. To Aries, this can feel maddeningly evasive. Where she wants someone to meet her heat with equal intensity, he offers cool logic, a verbal dance around the flame. It's not that he doesn't care, far from it. It's that his instinct is to understand before he reveals, to make sense of the chaos inside before unleashing it into the world. And this careful restraint can be interpreted by Aries as distance, disinterest, or even a lack of courage. But here's where their dynamic becomes fascinating. Aries' emotional directness can actually break down Gemini's walls. She pushes him to be real, to drop the intellectual shields and just feel. In her world, there is no shame in tears, no weakness in anger, no fault in passion. She forces him to confront emotions without hiding them behind words or endless theories. And in turn, Gemini offers Aries something equally valuable: perspective. He shows her that not every flash of anger deserves a battlefield, not every spark of jealousy requires a confrontation, and not every moment of love needs to be shouted from rooftops. Sometimes, emotions can be processed, tempered, and expressed in a way that builds bridges instead of burning them. This balancing act, her passion, his perspective, can create a harmony that is deeply enriching if both are willing to learn. Aries learns patience, Gemini learns vulnerability. She discovers that slowing down doesn't weaken her fire, and he discovers that opening up doesn't threaten his sense of control. Together, they create an emotional rhythm that alternates between fire and air, heat and breath, urgency and reflection. Yet, let's not romanticize this too quickly. Emotional misalignment between them is a very real risk. If Aries senses even a hint of Gemini pulling away, she may react impulsively. Her natural instinct is to confront things immediately, head-on, without pause. If she thinks he's hiding something, her temper can flare before he's even had the chance to explain. She'll demand answers, demand presence, demand truth, and if he's not ready to deliver, the clash can be explosive. On the flip side, when Gemini feels overwhelmed by Aries' intensity, his instinct is to retreat. He pulls into his mind, creates distance, avoids confrontation, or shifts the conversation into lighter, safer territory. This aloofness, of course, only fuels Aries' frustration, convincing her that he doesn't care. What begins as a misunderstanding can quickly spiral into a cycle of pursuit and withdrawal. Aries chasing answers, Gemini running from conflict. Their emotional success depends entirely on their ability to find a middle ground. Aries must learn that sometimes silence is not rejection but reflection, that a pause is not abandonment but processing. Gemini must learn that evasiveness creates wounds deeper than he intends, and that offering presence, even without perfect words, is sometimes enough to soothe Aries' fire. If they can both step outside of their comfort zones, she softening her demands, he strengthening his courage to be vulnerable, they can build an emotional partnership that feels both safe and exhilarating. What makes this pair unique is that their emotions, though expressed differently, stem from the same core desire to connect deeply and authentically. Aries wants honesty at all costs. Gemini wants understanding before revelation. Both are seeking closeness, they just use different paths to get there. The beauty of their relationship lies in the possibility of weaving those paths together, creating a space where fire doesn't scorch and air doesn't dissipate, but instead they combine to keep the flame alive, steady, and enduring. In the end, the emotional dynamics of a Gemini man and an Aries woman are not simple. They are layered, challenging, and sometimes frustrating. But within that complexity lies the potential for a love that is richer, fuller, and more transformative than either could experience with someone less challenging. Because when fire learns patience and air learns courage, the result is not just balance, it's growth. And that growth is what makes their connection worth the effort, worth the storms, worth the risk of flying too close to the flame. Long-term compatibility. So, what happens when the butterflies fade, when the novelty of late-night talks and the thrill of discovery begin to give way to the everyday realities of shared life? This is where the true test of a Gemini man and an Aries woman unfolds, because long-term compatibility requires more than chemistry, it demands patience, compromise, and a deep willingness to understand each other's core needs. And here's the intriguing part. Despite their obvious differences, Gemini and Aries share enough common ground to create a partnership that is not only enduring but also alive with constant growth and excitement. Both Gemini and Aries value freedom, adventure, and a life in motion. Neither of them thrives in stagnancy, and that alone becomes one of the strongest threads binding them together. They are the kind of couple who refuse to let life grow dull. Weekends may be spent hopping on spontaneous road trips, signing up for new classes, or experimenting with hobbies that challenge them in different ways. They inspire each other to keep moving forward, never settling for the ordinary. While some couples fall into routines that slowly erode passion, Gemini and Aries have a shared instinct to avoid that trap. Their restlessness becomes a gift, fueling their relationship with new layers of excitement over the years. The Aries woman, however, is a natural leader in the long run. She thrives on taking charge, setting goals, and blazing trails. In love, this translates to wanting her partner by her side as she conquers challenges and creates a life of achievement. The Gemini man doesn't inherently resist this role. In fact, he often appreciates her drive and feels liberated by her decisiveness. He admires her ability to take control where he might hesitate, and in many cases, he's happy to follow her lead, especially when her vision aligns with his curiosity about life. But here's where the friction starts to creep in. The Gemini man, with his dual nature, is unpredictable. His moods and interests can shift without warning. One day he is fully invested in her vision, and the next he's distracted by new ideas, new paths, or even new people. This inconsistency can unsettle Aries, who, despite her adventurous nature, craves a certain consistency from her partner. She wants to know that when she charges forward, someone is firmly at her side, not hesitating in the background, weighing options endlessly. To her, hesitation can feel like betrayal. To him, it's simply his way of making sure the path is worth taking. Over time, these differences can either become stumbling blocks or stepping stones. If Aries insists on always having her way, and Gemini insists on constantly wavering, the relationship can fall into a cycle of push and pull, filled with frustration. Aries may accuse Gemini of lacking commitment, while Gemini may accuse Aries of being too rigid, too demanding. The fiery passion that once drew them together could easily turn into heated arguments that repeat in patterns neither of them can seem to escape. But here lies the potential for greatness. If they choose to see their differences as strengths rather than flaws, their relationship transforms. Aries' decisiveness becomes a guiding force for Gemini's indecision. She teaches him the value of choosing a direction and sticking with it, showing him that sometimes action matters more than perfection. Meanwhile, Gemini's adaptability softens Aries' rigidity. He teaches her that sometimes flexibility is not weakness but wisdom, that detours can lead to beauty she never anticipated, and that life doesn't always have to be a straight line to victory. When they embrace this dynamic balance, they become a true power couple. Aries' fire fuels ambition, while Gemini's air keeps that fire from burning out. They thrive on each other's energy, pushing one another to grow not only as individuals but as a team. Together, they can conquer life's challenges with a mix of boldness and creativity, becoming the kind of couple that others look at with admiration, wondering how they managed to keep the spark alive for so long. Of course, the challenge of longevity is learning to manage their stubborn streaks. Aries doesn't like backing down from what she believes is right, and Gemini doesn't like being told what to do or how to feel. If they allow ego to dominate, they risk falling into a cycle where love becomes a battleground rather than a sanctuary. But if they remember that their bond is built on shared passion for life, their conflicts can become opportunities for deeper understanding. In the end, long-term compatibility between a Gemini man and an Aries woman is not about avoiding conflict or differences. It's about learning to dance with them, using their unique rhythms to create something dynamic and lasting. Their relationship may never be quiet or predictable, but it doesn't need to be. For these two, the joy is in the journey, not the destination. And as long as they keep choosing to walk that path together, with Aries' fire lighting the way and Gemini's winds keeping the flame alive, they stand a powerful chance of building a love that not only lasts but thrives. Communication conflict resolution. One of the greatest strengths of a Gemini man and an Aries woman lies in their ability to connect through words. The Gemini man, ruled by Mercury, is a natural conversationalist. He can spin stories, share ideas, debate theories, or talk endlessly about dreams that have yet to be realized. His words don't simply communicate, they dance, tease, and ignite curiosity. He has a way of taking even the most ordinary subject and turning it into something fascinating. To many people, this trait can become overwhelming, but for the Aries woman, it is surprisingly refreshing. She enjoys the liveliness of his mind, the speed with which he can leap from one idea to the next, and the enthusiasm he brings into every dialogue. For her, conversations with him are not dull exchanges, they are adventures, mental sparring sessions that fuel her fire rather than drain it. The Aries woman, though less verbose by nature, appreciates his ability to keep discussions alive. Where she might cut straight to the point and move on, he lingers, exploring angles she may not have considered. In this sense, his communication style expands her world. She finds herself listening to him not just because of what he says but because of how he says it, with wit, charisma, and that glint of mischief that keeps her guessing. Their verbal chemistry is one of the first things that binds them, and over time, it remains one of the most vital pillars of their relationship. But when conflicts arise, the differences in their communication styles become more pronounced. The Aries woman confronts problems head-on, without hesitation or delay. Her honesty is blunt, sometimes to the point of being cutting. She believes that if something is wrong, it should be addressed immediately and without sugarcoating. To her, avoidance is weakness, and silence is a betrayal of authenticity. She is fiery not only in temperament but in her belief that truth, no matter how raw, is always better than half-truths or comfortable evasions. The Gemini man, on the other hand, views conflict through a different lens. His instinct is not to charge at it but to dance around it, to diffuse tension with humor, to smooth sharp edges with cleverness. He may make a joke in the middle of a heated argument, hoping to lighten the mood. He may shift the subject temporarily, not because he doesn't care but because he believes taking the edge off can make the issue easier to resolve later. To him, confrontation doesn't have to be a battle. It can be reframed, softened, or even postponed until emotions are less raw. At first, this approach can infuriate Aries. To her, it feels as though he is dodging the issue, minimizing her feelings, or refusing to take the situation seriously. She interprets his levity as disrespect or, worse, indifference. Nothing frustrates her more than baring her soul only to be met with a joke or a playful shrug. This mismatch can turn even small disagreements into explosive conflicts, with Aries pressing harder for resolution and Gemini retreating further into humor and evasiveness. Yet, with time and maturity, the Aries woman may begin to recognize the value in his approach. While her instinct is to charge forward with unfiltered intensity, she sees that his lightheartedness often prevents situations from spiraling out of control. His ability to inject humor into heavy moments keeps them from becoming destructive. What once felt like avoidance begins to reveal itself as a survival strategy, one that balances her fire with his air. The key to making this dynamic work is timing. Gemini must learn when to set humor aside, when to stop dancing around issues and instead stand firmly in the heat of Aries' fire. He doesn't need to abandon his natural levity, but he must recognize that certain moments require gravity, sincerity, and presence. When Aries confronts him with her raw honesty, he must show her that he can match her intensity with genuine acknowledgement, not just clever words. Aries, in turn, must learn the art of laughter in the midst of conflict. She must understand that not every disagreement is a battle to be won, that sometimes humor is not dismissal but a bridge back to intimacy. If she can allow herself to step back, to smile when tensions rise, to see his jokes not as avoidance but as love in disguise, she can prevent her fiery nature from scorching the bond they've built. When they find this balance, conflicts become less about division and more about connection. Arguments turn into opportunities to understand each other more deeply. Heated exchanges become followed by laughter, the kind that clears the air and makes them feel even closer. Instead of breaking them apart, their differences in communication create a cycle of tension and release that strengthens their bond. In the long run, their ability to resolve conflicts defines the health of their relationship. If Gemini learns the courage of seriousness and Aries learns the wisdom of levity, they can transform every clash into a moment of growth. Their fights will never be quiet or without sparks. After all, fire and air together will always stir motion, but they don't have to be destructive. With mutual respect, they can turn those sparks into light rather than flames, ensuring that communication remains not only their greatest asset but also the foundation of their resilience as a couple. Physical intimate connection. Passion? With these two, it's not just off the charts, it's explosive, magnetic, and impossible to ignore. When a Gemini man and an Aries woman come together physically, the energy between them feels alive, like electricity sparking in the air long before they even touch. Their intimacy is not a quiet merging of souls but a dynamic collision, a playful and fiery exchange where curiosity meets raw desire. Each brings something unique to the table, and when those qualities combine, the result is a bond that is both adventurous and unforgettable. The Aries woman approaches intimacy with the same boldness she brings to every other part of her life. She is fearless, passionate, and completely unafraid to take charge. For her, physical connection is not a passive act, it's an extension of her personality, her dominance, and her love. When she wants something, she doesn't hesitate, she goes after it with fiery intensity. In the bedroom, this translates into a hunger for experiences that feel powerful, memorable, and emotionally consuming. She doesn't settle for routine, for mediocrity, or for half-hearted gestures. She wants heat, she wants fire, she wants passion so strong that it lingers in the body long after the night has ended. The Gemini man, on the other hand, approaches intimacy with playful curiosity. He is endlessly experimental, eager to try new things, and never content to repeat the same patterns twice. For him, physical closeness is a playground of possibilities. It's not only about passion, it's about novelty, creativity, and discovery. He wants to surprise, to innovate, to keep things fresh so that the connection never grows stale. Where Aries craves intensity, Gemini craves variety, and together they create a blend of passion and play that keeps their intimacy vibrant. Their chemistry rarely goes stale because they both resist stagnation, albeit in different ways. Aries insists on intensity, pushing the bond to new levels of heat. Gemini insists on experimentation, introducing variety and keeping things unpredictable. The combination ensures that their physical relationship doesn't fall into the traps that many couples face after time. With Aries, every moment feels like fire. With Gemini, every moment feels like an adventure. Together, those moments become unforgettable. But challenges inevitably arise. The Aries woman, with her need for fiery depth, sometimes desires raw intensity that borders on overwhelming. She wants her partner to match her energy, to lose themselves completely in the heat of the moment. The Gemini man, while capable of passion, doesn't always approach intimacy with the same level of seriousness. His instinct is to play, to explore, to experiment with a lighter touch. To Aries, this can sometimes feel like a lack of depth, as though he's more interested in the novelty of the experience than the fire of the connection. From Gemini's perspective, Aries' intensity can sometimes feel like pressure. Her need for all-consuming passion can overwhelm him, leaving little room for the levity and spontaneity he craves. If she demands intensity every time, he may begin to feel suffocated, yearning for the freedom to be playful, to laugh, to surprise without the weight of expectation. The beauty of their bond, however, lies in the potential to blend these two approaches into something greater. If Aries can allow for playfulness without mistaking it for lack of devotion, and if Gemini can meet Aries' fire with moments of raw, unguarded passion, their physical connection becomes one of the strongest pillars of their relationship. They can create an intimacy that is both grounding and liberating, fiery and fun, serious and spontaneous. This balance is what makes their physical life extraordinary. Imagine nights where Aries leads with fearless boldness, taking charge in a way that makes Gemini's curiosity ignite even further. Imagine Gemini responding not with resistance but with creativity, introducing variety that excites even the bold Aries. Together, they turn their physical bond into a language, a dialogue of fire and air, intensity and lightness, passion and play. In the long run, their ability to merge these two instincts, Aries' desire for intensity and Gemini's hunger for variety, ensures that their intimacy never becomes routine. It remains alive, evolving, adapting to the shifts of their relationship. For Aries, this connection satisfies her need for passion that feels unforgettable. For Gemini, it provides the endless novelty he craves, ensuring that every experience feels new, even within the familiarity of love. Theirs is not the kind of intimacy that fades quietly into the background of a long-term relationship. It is the kind that keeps them coming back to each other, again and again, with renewed curiosity and fiery hunger. And when they strike the right balance, their physical and intimate connection becomes not just a reflection of their love, but one of the most vital forces keeping that love alive. Shared values, life goals. Do Gemini men and Aries women value the same things? Surprisingly, yes, at least to a point. At their core, both are restless souls who crave independence, freedom, and growth. Neither of them is content with a life that feels boxed in by routine or suffocated by predictability. They share a natural hunger for expansion, for exploration, and for living a life that is bigger than the confines of tradition. Both dream with wide open eyes, seeing possibilities everywhere, and when they come together, their shared sense of ambition acts as a magnetic thread pulling them in the same direction. The Aries woman, true to her fiery spirit, is inherently goal-oriented. She is a warrior in every sense of the word, bold, determined, and unrelenting in her pursuit of success. Whether her goals are professional, personal, or relational, she approaches them with the same fire. She wants to conquer mountains, achieve milestones, and claim victories that feel undeniable. For her, life is not about drifting. It's about charging ahead with purpose, leaving a trail of accomplishments behind her. She thrives on the thrill of achievement, and she wants a partner who respects and supports this drive. The Gemini man, on the other hand, is more enchanted by the journey than the destination. He doesn't always need a finish line to motivate him. What excites him is the variety along the way. He is curious, adaptable, and often scattered in his pursuits. Today, he may be obsessed with one project, and tomorrow, a completely different one. It's not that he lacks ambition, it's that his ambitions are multiple, fluid, and constantly evolving. While Aries locks her sights on one target until it's conquered, Gemini often prefers to dance between possibilities, savoring the richness of experience rather than the satisfaction of a singular victory. This difference can create tension over time. To the Aries woman, Gemini's shifting focus may look like lack of discipline or seriousness. She might grow impatient with his tendency to scatter his energy, wondering if he will ever truly commit to one great mission. For a woman who thrives on conquering, Gemini's indecision can feel like wasted potential. On the other side, Gemini may find Aries' single-mindedness stifling. He might see her as rigid, overly serious, and unwilling to adapt when circumstances change. To him, her tunnel vision can appear exhausting, draining the joy from the journey by making it all about the end result. Yet, this very difference can become their greatest strength if they allow it. Aries provides focus where Gemini wavers. She anchors him, gives him a sense of direction, and shows him the value of persistence. With her influence, Gemini learns the beauty of seeing something through to completion, of staying the course even when distractions beckon. In return, Gemini offers Aries flexibility. He reminds her that detours can be just as rewarding as straight paths, that joy can be found not only in winning but also in experiencing. With his influence, she learns that life doesn't always have to be about the next conquest, that sometimes, savoring the process can be its own kind of victory. Together, they create a dynamic balance. Aries teaches Gemini how to commit, Gemini teaches Aries how to let go. She provides the fire that keeps goals burning bright. He provides the air that allows those flames to dance instead of consume. When they embrace this balance, their shared values of growth and freedom don't collide. They complement each other, forming a partnership that is both ambitious and adaptable. In terms of life goals, this couple is rarely ordinary. They're not the type to settle into a quiet suburban routine and call it a day. Their shared hunger for excitement pushes them to dream bigger. Whether it's traveling the world, building unconventional careers, or creating a life filled with adventure and self-expression. Aries wants victories she can hold up proudly, and Gemini wants experiences that fill his mind with stories and wisdom. When they work together, they can create a life that delivers both. The potential for conflict, of course, is always there. If Aries becomes too rigid, she risks burning out while chasing goals, leaving Gemini feeling unacknowledged or sidelined. If Gemini becomes too scattered, he risks losing Aries' respect, making her feel as though she's carrying the weight of ambition alone. But if they choose to honor each other's approaches, if she celebrates his curiosity instead of criticizing it, and if he admires her determination instead of resenting it, they can craft a shared vision that is richer than either would create alone. Ultimately, Gemini men and Aries women may value different routes, but they are heading toward the same horizon, a life of growth, freedom, and fulfillment. Aries brings the drive to achieve, Gemini brings the creativity to explore, and together they weave dreams into reality. In the end, their shared values and life goals don't have to clash. They can combine into a partnership where victory and experience, focus and freedom, passion and playfulness, all coexist in harmony. Final thoughts. The relationship between a Gemini man and an Aries woman is anything but ordinary. To call it simply vibrant or exciting doesn't fully capture the intensity of what happens when these two forces of nature collide. It is a connection that hums with energy, one that feels alive even in silence, unpredictable even in moments of stillness. Together, they embody a paradox. They are both one another's greatest challenge and greatest inspiration. And that paradox is what makes their love unforgettable. When Gemini and Aries fall in love, it's never linear. It doesn't follow a script or unfold in a quiet progression. Instead, it's a whirlwind, sometimes chaotic, sometimes breathtaking, but always consuming. They bring out aspects in each other that might otherwise remain dormant. Aries challenges Gemini to stop skimming the surface and dive deeper, to commit, to feel, to burn. Gemini inspires Aries to look beyond the straight line to victory, to laugh, to wander, to find joy in the journey rather than only in the destination. They frustrate each other with their differences, yes, but those very differences are also what keep the relationship alive. Without them, the flame might not burn as brightly. Their love is like a dance of fire and wind. Fire on its own risks burning out quickly or consuming everything in its path. Wind on its own is restless, scattered, unable to root itself. But when the two meet, when air feeds fire, something extraordinary happens. The flame grows brighter, stronger, more enduring. That is the essence of Gemini and Aries together. Sometimes the wind is too strong, threatening to blow the fire out. Sometimes the fire is too wild, threatening to scorch the air. But when they learn balance, they create a blaze that can light up the darkest of nights. The truth is, this relationship will never be easy. Easy is not their style. They are both too passionate, too restless, too full of life to settle into calm predictability. They will argue. They will misunderstand each other. They will, at times, feel like opposites pulling in different directions. Yet, in those very struggles lies the key to their growth. If they can see beyond the heat of the moment and recognize the value in each other's approach, they can turn those clashes into catalysts for transformation. What does it take for them to make it last? Effort, patience, and above all, willingness. Effort to keep showing up even when misunderstandings pile up. Patience to accept that their partner's way of moving through life will not always match their own. Willingness to grow, not separately, but together, by blending fire with air, action with curiosity, decisiveness with flexibility. It is not about one changing for the other, but both learning to bend without breaking, to meet in the middle without losing themselves. If they commit to this shared growth, their sparks don't just fizzle out, they evolve into a flame that endures. A flame that adapts with time, one that warms rather than burns, one that lights their path through both stormy nights and golden mornings. Their relationship has the potential to be both wildly adventurous and deeply stable, not because it avoids challenges but because it survives them, even thrives on them. So, can this pairing work long-term? Absolutely, if both are willing to embrace their differences not as flaws but as strengths. Aries must recognize that Gemini's playful variety is not carelessness but curiosity, a desire to keep life fresh. Gemini must understand that Aries' intensity is not control but devotion, a fiery commitment to making love and life extraordinary. With communication that blends honesty with humor, and with a shared refusal to let life grow dull, they can build a love that lasts not in spite of their differences but because of them. In the end, the Gemini man and Aries woman are not here to teach each other comfort, they are here to teach each other expansion. To remind each other that love is not meant to be a stagnant pool but a flowing river, full of rapids, turns, and breathtaking views. They are here to explore, to challenge, to grow side by side, never letting the flame of their connection go dim. After all, when air feeds fire, the flame only grows brighter. And if they choose to keep feeding it, with curiosity, with passion, with laughter, and with unwavering faith in each other, they will discover that their love is not just unforgettable but unbreakable.